When a father becomes the victim of a horrifying home invasion that destroys his family, he decides to pursue justice through his own brutal ways. The story begins with Clyde, a devoted husband and father, working on a project while his young daughter plays nearby. His wife calls out, asking him to answer the door. When Clyde opens it, he is struck with a baseball bat, and two intruders force their way in. They tie Clyde up, and Rupert begins searching the house for valuables, while the other, Darby, mocks Clyde and says, "You can't fight fate." Darby stabs Clyde in the stomach and forces him to watch helplessly as he assaults and kills his wife. Despite Rupert urging Darby to leave, Darby refuses and spots Clyde's daughter. As he moves toward the little girl, Clyde screams in despair, powerless to stop him. In the next scene, we are introduced to Nick, a district attorney. Nick, driven by his desire to maintain a high conviction rate, strikes a deal with Darby. Darby will plead guilty to a lesser charge and testify against Rupert, who will be sentenced to death for robbery. As a result, Darby will serve just 5 years in prison. Clyde, horrified by this decision, pleads with Nick not to accept the deal, but Nick proceeds regardless. In court, Rupert is portrayed as the primary perpetrator. After the trial, Darby sarcastically thanks Nick. Watching from afar, Clyde feels betrayed and devastated as the justice system fails him. The story shifts to the day of Rupert's execution, attended by Nick and his colleague Sarah. In his final moments, Rupert proclaims his innocence in Clyde's family's murders, claiming the real killer is getting away. The lethal injection, expected to be quick and painless, goes horribly wrong, causing Rupert to suffer an agonizing death. Meanwhile, Darby is at home watching the news about Rupert's execution. He receives a call from a private number. The mysterious voice directs Darby to look outside, where he sees police closing in on his home. Panicked, Darby grabs his gun and flees, firing at officers as they pursue him. Darby receives another call from the same voice, instructing him to discard his gun and head to an abandoned factory. The voice claims there's a cop inside who was tasered but will wake up soon, so Darby needs to hurry. Inside the factory, Darby finds the officer, takes his gun, and forces him to drive to a remote location. Once there, Darby drags the man out of the car and threatens him. The caller contacts Darby again, revealing that both he and the officer are Clyde in disguise. When Darby attempts to shoot Clyde, the gun injects him with a paralyzing substance. Darby is taken to a warehouse where Clyde straps him down, and to ensure Darby stays awake, Clyde injects him with adrenaline and mocks him by repeating the same phrase Darby once used.
You can't fight fate.
Clyde forces Darby to look into a mirror above as he is being tortured. The next day, police find Darby's remains in 25 pieces and suspect Clyde's involvement. They apprehend Clyde at his home, where he calmly surrenders. As he is escorted to the police car, Clyde gives Nick a menacing glare. In jail, Clyde sits in the interrogation room, calm and collected. Nick confronts Clyde, who offers to disclose the location of Darby's missing lawyer, Bill Reynolds, in exchange for a medium-rare steak and an iPod delivered by exactly 1 p.m. The following day, Clyde's meal is delayed by 8 minutes due to security protocols. After eating, Clyde reveals Bill's location, warning that time is critical. Police rush to the scene, but find Bill dead, buried with a timed oxygen mask that could have saved him if Clyde's meal had arrived on time. Meanwhile, Clyde kills his cellmate using a steak bone, prompting the warden to transfer him to solitary confinement. Nick visits Clyde in solitary to understand his motives. Clyde claims his goal is to hold people accountable for their actions. Nick contacts Doug, a former CIA operative. Doug reveals that Clyde used to work for the agency and was the mastermind in creating innovative assassination tools and executing impossible missions. Doug warns that Clyde is highly dangerous and capable of killing anyone, anywhere, without detection. Nick goes to the judge to request that Clyde's visitation rights be restricted. However, when the judge signs the order, her phone explodes, killing her instantly. Nick interrogates Clyde, who claims his actions aim to expose the justice system's flaws not just settle personal scores. Investigating further, Nick discovers Clyde owns a garage near the prison. Inside, he finds a tunnel leading to an underground lair beneath Clyde's solitary cell, filled with weapons, disguises, and surveillance equipment. It becomes clear Clyde has been carrying out his attacks from within the prison, creating the illusion of outside accomplices. Evidence points to City Hall as Clyde's next target, where the mayor is holding an emergency meeting. Nick and his team search the premises and find a suitcase bomb triggered by a cell phone.
Looks like it's triggered by this cell phone here. What?
Meanwhile, Clyde returns to his lair, where Nick confronts him. Nick urges Clyde to abandon his vendetta. Clyde apologizes and activates the bomb remotely, but Nick has anticipated this. He had planted the bomb beneath Clyde's bed. Locking Clyde in his cell, Nick leaves as Clyde realizes the trap. Accepting his fate, Clyde retrieves his daughter's bracelet and sits on the bed. Moments later, the bomb detonates, killing Clyde and ending his reign of terror.